Welcome back to another episode of our Python Quickstart tutorial video series. In today's video, we're gonna discuss slicing of lists. You think we are done with lists yet? Nah, let's look at a little bit more interesting parts and things that we need quite frequently. And that is called slicing. We figured out how to get the full list, and we figured out how to get one element out of a list. Slicing is the problem when we say, what if I need a group out of that list? I don't need the entire list, but I need more than one. And that part's called slicing. So let's start and look at this based on an example. If we do slicing, let's start with the list. And first, we have a list, and let's double check. List index 0 is what? It's the first element. Let's verify. Yes, it gives the first element. So let's look at a different feature. And that's if I want to know how big is my list, there is the length function, and it's len, not length, it's len. So the length function returns an integer that tells me how many elements are in there. I assign it to a variable n, so if I want to see it, I need to type n. So n says we have 5 elements, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's true, we have 5 elements, but careful, the index goes from 0, 1 to 4. So from 0 to n minus 1. Again, a warning for all of our MATLAB gurus. MATLAB would say index goes from 1 to 5. If I have 5 elements, C, C++, Python type indexing, index goes from 0 to n minus 1. So from 0 to 4. There is an easy way to create a list that does all the available indices, and that function is called the range function. Range 5 creates all the indices in an array that has 5 elements. And I just wrap it around the list function because it's otherwise called an iterator. I don't want to go much further into what an iterator actually is. Think of it as a list that can be accessed a little bit quicker on the computer. So I convert it to a list so I can see it. Range 5 is the length of the array, gives a list of all the indices that fall in there. If you look up the range command, you will actually also see that you can get extra options that you can create from 2 or at certain intervals. The best way to see now how to work with those indices and how to use the slicing is actually much easier to see when we work it on a string. Remember, a string is a list of characters. So let's do something. SimCenter Programming Bootcamp 2020. What would S3 be? Before I press the button, you could have done it already. Try to think. That was the perfect break. What did you come up with? Did you come up with C? If you did, congratulations. If you didn't, once again, index 0 is the S, index 1 is I, index 2 is M, and index 3 is the C. So we start at 0. The nice thing is, what if we want to get the word SimCenter out of that string? I assign that. My solution looks like this. It is an index range. I can do that range also like this from 0 to. It says pick all the indices from 0 to 9. Or, and that's the form that I used here, if I omit the start, then it means the start of the string S to 9, careful, and that is not the index 9. Because if you think index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 9 would be the space, so the index 9, but the string ended without the space. So this means cut before position 9. If I take a second word and I use here the same 9, and I use the logic start to, and the end, if I omit this, goes to the end of the string, this says start at index 9 and go to the end, or the length of the string minus 1. So let me iterate that again. Here I got 9 characters and they are from index 0 to 8. So the 9 is the first that's not in there. Let's illustrate it a little bit clearer. If I go here to 11, I get the P in there. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 characters. But it means it's going from the index 0 to the one before the index 11. Yeah, these are the 11. The nice thing here, if I change the same thing here and go to 11, we don't have a duplication. It's like a clean separation, SimCenter P, and then we go rogami. If I combine them and I bring these two together, there is no duplication. If we would use that code in something like MATLAB, you will get, in this case, the little r doubled. Yeah. So the idea how Python works, and let's bring that back, 9, whatever index I'm using here, it says cut before from 0 to the one before that, and then cut from this one to the one before the end. At that way, we have that relationship for slicing that makes that overall quite easy. If you want to break a string at n characters, you go from start to n and from n to end. MATLAB, again, you had to think that we needed here an n minus 1 and here an n, or here an n and here an n plus 1. So Python has a different logic. It will take a few times. Be prepared to test when you need this operation, and that's called slicing. We slice the string at a certain point. The important part is you can do this stuff on strings, but also on any lists with numbers or lists that have combined entries in there. So that's important. The same logic applies. I just demonstrated it here on a string. The other part that's here in the text, if I'm using S and just a period, what does that mean? I omitted the start. It means from the start, and I omitted the end. It's to the end. But the trick is, hey, that's the full thing. But this is a shortcut for the copy operator of our problem that we had before. When we want to copy a list, like here, I create a list that's just numbers from 2 to 20 in intervals of 3. And then I create a list T1. This first thing here, what does that mean? I duplicate the pointer. So T1 and LST are pointing to the same data. It says T2 is LSD from start to finish. So it's a slice, that's the full data set. but that's a copy. This is the full data. That's the same as the copy operator. So T2 points to a copy of the data, while T1 and LST copy to the same. Let's just illustrate that here very, very simple by using the print command. And I'm introducing here another way of looking at print commands. And that is, instead of using format, I say print this string, then print whatever that value is, and so forth. And here I add another thing. I print the character \n, that's broken new line. New line means add an extra line. So it will add an empty line. And what I'm doing in this demo is modify one of the T1, modify one of the T2. And before we execute this, again, I encourage you to pause the video and think what the output should look like. Take the break. Pause. Once you have your answer, then execute that command block and restart your video. What did we see? We've seen first all these operators. It looks like we have 3 identical copies. Now we modify T1. T1 points to the same data as LST. So by modifying T1, the second block of brains should have modified T1 and list, and we see that both T1 and list got modified. Now we modify T2, and I change the second value to -99. T2 is a copy of the data. So if we modify D2, we modify that copy. That's a private copy, and this does not modify T1 or LST.